Chapter 488. The dust settled, Yang Kong had been defeated. However, in a certain corner of the battlefield, Dong Qinghan was ravaging the Lu family's young master. Lu Song's strength wasn't bad. A few days ago, he had fought with Dong Qinghan at Pajing Lake, so they were familiar with each other's details. Tonight, Dong Qinghan had deliberately sought him out, and Lu Song had accepted the challenge without hesitation. Unexpectedly, after not seeing each other for a few days, Dong Qinghan's strength had actually increased greatly. After a brief battle, Lu Song was defeated, not even having a chance to fight back, being chased around by Dong Qinghan. Is this guy on steroids or something? How come he's so strong tonight? Lu Song was beaten black and blue, quickly fleeing in panic. Run for this young master, run faster. Dong Qinghan's face was cold, his fat body exuding an indescribable elegance, and in a flash, he appeared in front of Lu Song and slapped him across the face. Lu Song raised his hand to block, but how could he have known that his opponent's speed was so fast that before he could even react, the direction of his palm had changed? With a loud slap, half of Lu Song's face went numb. As the saying goes, when you hit someone, don't hit their face. When cursing someone, don't expose their shortcomings. Dong Qinghan's vile behavior almost made Lu Song vomit blood. He was the young lord of a first-class family, with so many pairs of eyes watching him on this battlefield. If word of this spread out, how could he ever maintain a foothold in the future? Dong Qinghan, don't go too far. Lu Song hurriedly retreated, opening up some distance between him and Dong Qinghan. I'm going too far, so what? Dong Qinghan slapped him again. Pa. Lu Song was so angry that he completely lost his composure, unable to block any of the moves he could have blocked. Suffering another slap, Lu Song's eyes went red. Blind fool, still not leaving War City. Dong Qinghan spat as he continued to slap Lu Song. Cousin! Lu Song screamed at the top of his lungs, shouting into the void. Cousin, your mother! Dong Qinghan slapped him again. Up in the sky, Qiu Yimeng glanced down and shook her head slightly, ignoring Lu Song's cry for help. On the day he was driven out of his house by Yang Kai, Qiu Yimeng had privately talked to him the next day, urging him to leave War City as soon as possible and not meddle in the muddy waters of the inheritance war. Qiu Yimeng's intentions were good. She knew that he had eyes but couldn't see. He had offended someone he shouldn't have offended. Qing is Yang's tea? But not only did this little brat not appreciate his kindness, after recovering from his injuries, he even sought out Yang Kong as a backer, intending to oppose Yang Kai. It was already too late for him to ask for help now. Dong Qinghan wasn't going to kill him, so teaching him a lesson and humiliating him was a good idea. Perhaps it would make him realize that the inheritance war wasn't something he could participate in. After Yang Kong fell from the sky, everyone had stopped what they were doing. Only Dong Qinghan continued to teach Lu Song a lesson, causing the latter to squeal like a pig being slaughtered. It made one's hair stand on end. Yang Kong Mansion was in a state of desolation. They had suffered heavy losses in this battle. More than half of their men were killed or injured. No one had thought that it would end up like this. Everyone thought that even if Yang Kang's forces weren't the strongest, they weren't the weakest either. Even if someone came to fight, it would be impossible to defeat them. But the bloody reality sobered them up. Yang Kai had silently gained the power to overpower all the Yang family young lords. Looking at the figure in the sky, many people showed a look of frustration and powerlessness. Take out the flag. Yang Kai shouted coldly. Xiao Shun's body shook. Rushing into the middle hall of Yang Kang's mansion, he picked up the flag and openly walked out. No one stopped him, and no one dared to stop him. The loss of the flag also meant that Yang Kong had been eliminated in a real sense. Lying on the ground, Yang Kong slowly closed his eyes. From now on, everything in War City had nothing to do with him. I'll give you all a chance to live. Looking down at the surviving cultivator in Yang Kang's house, Yang Kai shouted. Everyone couldn't help holding their breath and listening attentively. Collect all the supplies in my fifth brother's house and deliver them to my house. Don't ever set foot in War City again, otherwise, I'll kill without mercy. No one answered, and no one accused him of acting like a bandit. This was what Yang Kai deserved. After experiencing tonight's slaughter, the cultivator here didn't have the courage to stay. What's more, Yang Kong had previously agreed to Yang Kai's conditions, so with him speaking, these people who had pledged allegiance to him should obey. Don't understand? If you don't understand, there's no need for you to leave. Yang Kai stared down with an unkind expression. We understand, ninth young lord, rest assured. Immediately, someone shouted, fearing that Yang Kai's people would kill again. Yang Kai nodded slightly. We should hurry back. Qiu Yimeng's expression was dignified as she said with some unease, I wanted to end this quickly, but you've delayed for so long. There aren't many people left in the house, and we don't know whether Yang Xin and Yang Ying have taken action yet. Currently, Yang Kai's house only had a small number of people. If Yang Xin and Yang Ying received news of this, if they were ruthless enough, they could lead a large number of people and seize the flag while Yang Kai's rear was undefended. Even if Chu Gao Yi was there to protect them, it wouldn't be enough. I did it deliberately. Yang Kai smiled lightly. What do you mean? Sixth brother and seventh brother should have already taken action, right? Yang Kai replied casually. Are you sure they've already taken action? Qiu Yimeng's beautiful face paled slightly. Of course. Yang Kai nodded. Then you're not worried at all? Qiu Yimeng was anxious to death. She really didn't understand why Yang Kai had deliberately delayed for so long to allow Yang Shen and Yang Ying to receive the news. What are you worried about? The flag is fine. Yang Kai shook his head. Although Chu Gao Yi alone wasn't enough to guarantee the safety of the flag, there was still Meng Wuya in the house. Treasurer Meng had said he wouldn't intervene in the inheritance war, but if there really was a crisis, he wouldn't just sit back and watch. Yang Kai had confidence in him. Tonight is an opportunity. Yang Kai chuckled. This place is closer to Sixth Brother's house, so let's go there. Qiu Yimeng was stunned. Staring at him blankly, she asked, How much are you planning to do tonight? As much as I can. Yang Kai replied casually. Tonight was a rare opportunity. Yang Kai had refined a mysterious great artifact many days in advance. The return of the old demon and Ying Jiao's recovery were all advantages Yang Kai could take advantage of. These advantages could only be exposed once, so the next time his brothers were psychologically prepared, they wouldn't have much effect. Yang Zhao Mansion. Yang Zhao smiled helplessly. Leading a group of cultivators, Yang Zhao confronted Yang Wei in front of the house. The two brothers had been talking all night and their mouths were dry. They didn't fight. Yang Zhao knew that his eldest brother had come to restrain him and prevent him from mobilizing his forces, so naturally he had no intention of fighting. Someone hurried over. Coming to Yang Zhao's side and whispering in his ear, Yang Zhao's expression suddenly changed. At the same time, someone else came to Yang Wei's side and said the same thing. After a moment, the two brothers glanced at each other and Yang Zhao asked, Eldest brother, what kind of background does ninth brother have? Do you know? I know a little, but I didn't expect him to be so strong. Yang Wei nodded gently. Yang Kong would be eliminated. This was what the two of them had expected. However, Yang Kai's side basically didn't lose any manpower, which made the two of them feel a little surprised. Whether it was Yang Wei or Yang Zhao, they both thought that even if their ninth brother could defeat their fifth brother, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. After all, one was attacking while the other was defending. The latter had the advantage of time and location. Now that the news had come, no matter who it was, they couldn't help showing a trace of shock and fear. Eldest brother, listen to me, how about joining forces with me? Ninth brother is so strong, this time with fifth brother, he will only grow stronger and stronger. If we don't join forces now, we won't have another chance. Yang Wei's brow wrinkled but he didn't answer immediately. Yang Zhao smiled and said, Eldest brother, what are you hesitating for? Ninth brother is strong now, if I'm not wrong, his next target will be sixth brother or seventh brother. After defeating sixth brother and seventh brother, we will become his next target. Do you still want to join forces with him to destroy me first? Yang Wei shook his head. Joining forces with him is only limited to this one time. However, if he wants to destroy sixth brother and seventh brother, I'm afraid it will take some time. When he really sets his sights on you and me, it won't be too late for us to join forces. Yang Zhao hesitated for a moment before nodding. Good. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Yang Wei no longer said anything and led his group away. Watching Yang Wei's figure disappear, Yang Zhao's brow couldn't help wrinkling as he muttered, ninth brother, what kind of subordinates do you have? How could they accomplish such a feat? After hesitating for a moment, Yang Zhao hurriedly found the man who had just reported and asked him about the battle in Yang Kang's house. When he learned about the bloody methods of the old demon, Yang Zhao's expression couldn't help changing greatly. Isn't he an evil demon? In this subordinate's opinion, that is indeed the conduct of an evil demon. The cultivator camp in 5th Young Lord's house was completely destroyed by this man. If it weren't for him, 5th Young Lord wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. Before the artifact snatching battle, the forces gathered by his brothers were basically equal. Even if there was some gap, it wasn't big. Therefore, no one dared to take the initiative to attack others, giving others an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. But after the artifact snatching battle, Yang Kai's house had suddenly opened up a gap in strength between him and his brothers, which made Yang Zhao feel a little strange. Where did this cruel evil demon come from? Why had he never heard of him before? Yang Zhao called out softly. What is second young master's order? Yi Xinro walked up and asked softly. Have you found any news about the master I asked you to inquire about? Yi Xinro slowly shook her head. Not yet. After that person appeared at Pajing Lake, he disappeared. Continue to investigate. Yang Zhao frowned. Be sure to find that person and try to use them as much as possible. The mysterious master who appeared at Pajing Lake had snatched the 8th mysterious grade artifact, so not only did Yang Kai care about her identity, Yang Zhao also cared about her. If he could win over such a mysterious master, Yang Zhao wouldn't need to fear Yang Kai. With this hope in mind, Yang Zhao naturally spared no effort to inquire about this person, but unfortunately, after so many days, there had been no news. Chapter 489. Tonight, Yang Kai suddenly launched a large-scale attack on Yang Kong while Yang Wei led his forces to pin down Yang Zhao. The two battlefields were filled with smoke, and the situation suddenly became tense. After Yang Shen received the news, he immediately saw an opportunity to exploit and immediately sent a message to Yang Ying. The two of them led a large number of people to take advantage of Yang Kai's weakness to seize the flag and eliminate him in one fell swoop. At this time, Yang Wei, Yang Zhao, Yang Kai, and Yang Kong all had their hands full. Their cultivators were scattered all over the place, so even if they took action, they didn't have to worry about the safety of their own rear. In order to ensure victory, whether it was Yang Shen or Yang Ying, both of them had brought their only remaining blood warrior and around 70% of their cultivators. They only wanted to end this battle quickly and break through Yang Kai's defenses as soon as possible. One couldn't blame Yang Shen for being so ambitious. Anyone else would have made such a decision. It could be said that this decision was the correct one. However, Yang Shen had misjudged the situation. He thought that Yang Kai and Yang Kong would fight for a long time, and that he and Yang Ying would easily seize the flag hanging in the central hall of Yang Kai's mansion. In his fantasy, perhaps by the time he and Yang Ying won the flag and returned triumphantly, Yang Kai and Yang Kang's battle hadn't yet been decided. This was enough time to take advantage of. The two sides acted in a hurry and soon gathered in Yang Kai's mansion. After a series of fierce attacks, the cultivator in Yang Kai's mansion was unable to resist and was forced to retreat again and again. The only forces left in Yang Kai's mansion were 10,000 Flower Palace, Soaring Feather Pavilion, Xiang Family, Reflecting Moon Sect, Blood Battle Gang, and Ghost King Valley. How could these people resist the attacks of Yang Shen and Yang Ying's cultivator? Qiu Yi Meng and Hu Stars were not present, so everyone was like a headless fly. 10,000 Flower Palace's first senior sister Han Shaoqi didn't panic and calmly issued orders. Under her command, everyone gradually stabilized their footing. However, the disparity in strength still made everyone feel powerless and forced to retreat. Yang Shen and Yang Ying were overjoyed when they saw this and quickly ordered people to rush to the central hall to seize the flag. Chu Gao Yi with his own strength, blocking the enemy and activating his mad tyrant blood skill, it was like a single man guarding a pass. Gao Yi Mengji. After a long battle, Yang Shen and Yang Ying both became anxious. At that moment, one of their cultivator subordinates, Yang Kang, Yang Kai's defeat. Yang Kai led his subordinates and retreated from Yang Kang's mansion. Yang Shen and Yang Ying were shocked and no longer dared to hesitate, personally leading their blood warriors to charge into the fray, hoping to end the battle before Yang Kai returned. Chu Gao Yi was powerful, but in the end he was only one person. Any one of the blood warriors around Yang Shen and Yang Ying was more than enough to delay him. With 2 Yang family young lords and 2 blood warriors joining the fray, Chu Gao Yi was really outnumbered and unable to defend the central temple. Just as the flag was within reach, a white-haired old man suddenly appeared. He had an unyielding expression on his face, as if he was doing something he was very unwilling to do. He easily blocked the cultivators who came to seize the flag. Yang Shen and Yang Ying's eyes were bloodshot. Victory was in sight, but they didn't know where this old man had come from. How could they be willing to give up? Yang ordered his numerous cultivator subordinates to attack again. But the old man's strength was too tyrannical. Together with Chu Gao Yi and Yang Kai's Immortal Ascension Boundary Cultivator, they arranged an airtight defense in front of the central hall that even a mosquito couldn't fly in. After a long struggle, Yang Shen and Yang Ying both despaired. But what made them feel strange was that Yang Kai still hadn't returned. While they were puzzled, the 2 of them suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility. Before they could finish their thoughts, a cultivator rushed over in a panic and reported, 6th young lord, the 9th young lord seems to have taken people to his house and hasn't returned. Hearing this, Yang Shen suddenly felt like he had been doused with a basin of cold water, his entire body going cold. He had tried to seize the flag while Yang Kai's defense was weak, but how could he have known that Yang Kai had the same idea after attacking Yang Kang? 6th brother. Yang Ying glanced sadly at Yang Shen. Return. Yang Shen waved his hand. How could he dare hesitate? Yang Shen couldn't take this place, and his own house was on fire, so he didn't want to stay. Yang Ying gritted his teeth and glared hatefully at the old man. He didn't stay any longer and left with Yang Shen. Just as he was halfway there, Yang Shen saw quite a few cultivators from his mansion running towards him in panic. His face immediately turned ashen. 6th young lord. The cultivator who was rushing over also saw Yang Shen, Yang Ying, and the others and hurriedly approached them, sobbing and crying as he spoke, 9th young master is such a bastard. He rushed into the mansion and burned, killed, and looted. We couldn't stop him and lost the flag. Yang Shen couldn't help but stagger, a trace of grief and despair appearing on his face. He was truly muddle-headed about his defeat. Yang Kang had been eliminated. At the very least, it was Yang Kai who led a frontal attack. Yang Kang wasn't his opponent and was defeated. As for himself, all because of his greed, he had been careless. He hadn't expected the battle between Yang Kai and Yang Kai to end so quickly, nor had he expected the defenses of Yang Kai's house to be so strong. One wrong move and the whole game was lost. 6th brother. Yang Ying pursed his lips, not knowing how to comfort him, only calling out softly. Yang Shen's expression suddenly calmed down and he said in a low voice, 7th brother, take this 6th brother and exchange him for some supplies from the family. In addition, all the cultivator in my house will be handed over to you. 6th brother. Yang Ying's face was filled with emotion, opening his mouth but not knowing what to say. The 2 of them were blood brothers, so in the inheritance war, naturally they would help each other. With the flag lost, Yang Shen was now eliminated, so the only thing he could do was naturally increase Yang Ying's strength. What are you waiting for? 9th brother's appetite is big. After he's finished with my house, he'll definitely go to yours. Hurry up and return. Yang Shen shouted angrily. Yang Ying suddenly woke up and didn't bother to say anything to Yang Shen, hurriedly leading his people back. 6th young lord, since you've been eliminated, Luo Hai will withdraw first. The blood warrior next to Yang Shen suddenly said. Yang Shen glanced at him and smiled bitterly. You're going to join Ninth Brother? Luo Hai nodded gently. He didn't deny it. You've been waiting for this day for a long time, right? Yang Shen smiled contemptuously, a trace of resentment in his voice. Luo Hai's expression remained unchanged and he didn't answer. Why do all of you blood warriors want to join Ninth Brother? Does he have such great ability to make all of you so willingly surrender? Yang Shen's face was filled with envy, but also a deep sense of powerlessness. Blood warriors know how to repay kindness. The reason we all chose to join Ninth Young Lord, Sixth Young Lord should understand. Luo Hai replied. Just because he used Chu Gao Yi and Ingjiu? Is that enough to make all of you so grateful? Yes. Luo Hai nodded deeply. Yang Shen let out a sigh of relief, feeling somewhat disheartened. Waving his hand, he said, Go, you've worked hard all this time. Luo Hai cupped his fists. Turning around, he left. Looking at Luo Hai's back, Yang Shen smiled bitterly. Using Chu Gao Yi and Ingjiu, he had also had the opportunity to do so. Not only him, all the Yang family young lords who had contributed enough had this opportunity, but none of them had grasped it. Only Ninth Brother had the courage to do so. If he had used Chu Gao Yi and Ingjiu, wouldn't all the blood warriors have surrendered to him now? Certainly, the premise was that he had been able to hold on until now. Chu Gao Yi and Ingjiu were seriously injured at the time and couldn't display even 30% of their full strength, so no one dared ask them to follow him. Even now, Yang Shen still couldn't figure out what kind of method his Ninth Brother had used. Healing Chu Gao Yi and Ingjiu's injuries had allowed them to grow to the point where they were now. Yang Shen's house. A group of people were happily counting the supplies in Yang Shen's house, carrying out boxes full of harvest. 70% of Yang Shen's people had been taken away by him, so when Yang Kai led his people here, without encountering any decent resistance, they were able to capture and occupy this mansion. It was an easy task. The cultivator in the house fled one after another, but Yang Kai didn't order his people to chase after them, instead ordering them to search for the supplies and take them away. Yanling Xing greets the little lord. A burly man with a pockmarked face walked up to Yang Kai and said respectfully. Yang Kai glanced at him and nodded slightly. This man was the blood warrior who had followed Yang Shen around Pijing Lake that day. Just like Tu Feng. After being hit by the Qi binding seal, his Yuan Qi had been sealed and he was unable to use it. At this moment, apart from his strong physique, he was no different from an ordinary person. All the cultivator in Yang Shen's house had run away, leaving only him. Subordinate is willing to follow the little lord. I beg the little lord to fulfill this wish. Yanling Xing quickly said. That was my intention. Yanling Xing heard this and was overjoyed, repeatedly expressing his thanks. Qiu Yimeng watched from the side, shaking her head and smiling bitterly. She had also read many ancient records of the Yang family's inheritance war and knew that in the past, whenever a Yang family young lord was defeated, the blood warriors around him would become the target of the other young lords. Often, because of these blood warriors who were temporarily without a master, the remaining young lords would erupt into great battles one after another in order to win over these blood warriors. But this time, all the blood warriors who had been defeated by the other young lords had, without exception, chosen to follow Yang Kai. Qiu Yimeng couldn't understand what kind of charm this bastard had that made all the masters of the blood warrior hall so willingly submit to him. If such a scene was seen by Yang Wei, Yang Zhao, and the others, wouldn't their eyes turn red with jealousy? Yang Kai, where are we going now? Feeling a headache coming on, Qiu Yimeng was too lazy to think about it and simply asked. Home, where else do you want to go? Yang Kai glanced at her. Qiu Yimeng couldn't help curling her lips. I thought you wanted to go to Yang Ying's house. Yang Kai shook his head. I don't have such plans for the time being. Seventh Brother's house should now be occupied by two groups of people. If we attack now, our losses won't be small. Let's wait a few more days. Tonight, the harvest is big enough. You're too modest. Qiu Yimeng snorted. The harvest was more than big enough. It was simply bountiful. Yang Kong was defeated, his flag and supplies were taken away. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian pledged allegiance to him. Yang Shen was also defeated, his flag and supplies were also taken away. Yanling Xing and Luo Hai pledged allegiance to him. In just one night, Yang Kai's strength had greatly increased, his supplies were abundant, and his future was bright. Chapter 490. The sun hung high in the sky and the blue sky was clear. Yang Kai's mansion was bustling with activity, as if it was the new year, all the cultivators' faces beaming with joy. In last night's battle, Yang Kai had almost become the only winner, so these cultivators who had followed him here were naturally excited. Inside the courtyard, there were thousands of alchemy and artifact refining materials, a dazzling sight to behold. All of these materials had been plundered from Yang Kong and Yang Shen's houses. Before the start of the Inheritance War, Yang Kai had been collecting alchemy and artifact refining materials, so naturally everyone else had been doing the same. After the start of the Inheritance War, those who had taken refuge with Yang Kong and Yang Shen had also brought a lot of materials. Coupled with the materials they had collected over the past few months, it could be said that each of the young lords had amassed an amazing amount of wealth and materials. Now, the two sets of materials that originally belonged to Yang Kong and Yang Shen had been taken by Yang Kai. Furthermore, every box and every material was labeled with the name of the material, its function, its age, and so on. As long as a skilled artifact refiner or alchemist came over and took a look, they would immediately know how to use these materials. The leaders of all the forces had gathered here, their faces filled with excitement. Take a look and see if there are any materials you can use for cultivation. If there are any suitable materials, don't hesitate to take them yourself. Yang Kai ordered. When everyone heard this, they immediately became excited, not even bothering to exchange pleasantries, and immediately began searching through the many materials. The women were more sensitive and hesitated for a while. But seeing Hua Xing and the others put away a lot of materials, they also grit their teeth and stepped forward to begin searching. A short time later, everyone found one or two materials suitable for their own use and happily put them away. Even Qiu Yimeng found a pearl-like object that exuded a faint light. She carefully wore it close to her chest. "Aren't you going to look around?" Qiu Yimeng glanced over at Yang Kai. "They're all mine, what am I looking for?" Yang Kai smiled lightly and ordered, "Have someone sort out these materials and sort them out properly. Send them to the pill room and the weapon refining room." Qiu Yimeng nodded, not complaining at all, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Who's the next target? We'll talk about it when the time comes." After last night's battle, not only had he obtained these materials, but he had also obtained the loyalty of the four blood warriors. Tu Feng, Tang Yuxian, Luo Hai, Yanling Xing. All of them were masters among masters, each of them having reached the immortal ascension boundary 8th stage. However, Tu Feng and Yanling Xing were both affected by the Qi binding seal and were currently seeking a way to remove it from Meng Wuya. Tang Yuxian and Ying Jiu had also suffered heavy injuries in the battle. Similarly, Ying Jiu also did not escape unscathed. Both of them used the Mad Tyrant blood skill, and in a real battle of swords and spears, neither held back. Friendship was friendship, but loyalty to the ideals of the Yang family made them protect the young masters. They spared no effort. Chu Gao Yi, while guarding the central temple last night, had once again suffered a heavy blow. The uncontrolled eruption of his Yuan Qi and spiritual energy had put a huge burden on his body. So at this time, although Yang Kai seemed to have a strong army, he only had a few blood warriors. Only Xiao Shun and Luo Hai, who had recently joined them. Relying solely on the two blood warriors and old demon to attack any one of the remaining three, they wouldn't be able to gain an overwhelming advantage. Especially now that Yang Ying had joined forces with Yang Shen's people, his strength had greatly increased and he had become the one with the most allies. Eldest brother Yang Wei had always given off a calm and composed feeling, so Yang Kai estimated that he had not yet displayed his full strength. Needless to say, Yang Zhao was the most shrewd of the brothers and was probably even more difficult to deal with than the current Yang Ying. Therefore, Yang Kai was not preparing to make any moves in the near future. First, the cultivator in his house needed to recover, and second, he himself needed to consolidate his Yuan Qi 9th stage strength. As long as he waited for the blood warriors to restore their strength, he would be able to act freely. News of last night's battle quickly spread throughout the central capital and War City. The results of Yang Kai's two brothers' battle had also shocked everyone. Old Demon's cruel methods were even more exaggerated and described as extremely bloody. Everyone knew that Yang Kai's house had an evil demon with unfathomable means. Secretly, they were shocked by Yang Kai's boldness. The central capital's 8 great families and the ash-gray cloud evil land had always had an irreconcilable relationship. More than half a year ago, the two sides had fought a terrible war, and both sides had suffered losses. The Yang family patriarch, Yang Inghao, had been injured by the profound Yin Ghost King and the annihilating Poison King and had been forced to use a secret technique to expel his injuries at the cost of 30 years of his life. In this sensitive period, Kai Yang actually dared to collude with these evil demons. It was simply too bold. If this was used by someone with good intentions, it was likely to bring about some unimaginable changes and turnaround in the inheritance war. What was surprising, though, was that when the old demon was slaughtering people in War City, the 8 above Immortal Ascension boundary masters in the Seal Temple actually didn't intervene. Many couldn't help speculating whether the 8 above Immortal Ascension boundary masters had acquiesced to the actions of this demon. Looking back at the result of last night's battle, everyone knew that the Yang family had overreached themselves this time and helped Yang Kai achieve his amazing feat. The Yang family disliked the fact that the young lord's progress in the inheritance war was too slow, so they had used 1,000 artifacts as bait to lure them into battle. Finally, they had placed Qi binding seals on the 8 mysterious grade artifacts, imprisoning the 6 blood warriors. Without these 6 blood warriors stirring up trouble, the progress of the inheritance war would undoubtedly be much faster. However, Ingjiu suddenly lifted the Qi binding seal and Yang Kai now had Xiao Shun by his side, which meant that Yang Kai now had 2 more top-level combatants than the other young lords. Without these 2 people, Yang Kai wouldn't have been able to achieve the feat he did last night. In other words, the artifact snatching at Pijing Lake by the Yang family had indirectly helped Yang Kai achieve his goal. The twists and turns of this story were complicated, but some people were still able to see the ingenious connections. After this battle, the strength of Yang Kai's house had completely surpassed that of the other young lords. Everyone knew that if this continued, the one who would have the last laugh in the inheritance war would undoubtedly be Yang Kai. There was almost no suspense. Inside Yang Kai's house, everyone found suitable materials for their cultivation and went into retreat to cultivate. Yang Kai was preparing to find his little senior sister to relieve his physical and mental exhaustion and ask for some pills to cultivate when suddenly a voice called out from outside. 9th Young Lord, Lu Liang requests an audience. I hope 9th Young Lord will grant him an audience. Lu Liang? Yang Kai raised his brow and glanced over at Qiu Yimeng next to him. Your uncle is here. Qiu Yimeng rolled her eyes and frowned. I'm afraid it's because of Lu Song. You go see him, I won't bother. Yang Kai said casually. That's not good, he's here to see you. If you refuse to see him, it's a bit suspicious. What's not good about it? He's just here to apologize because of Lu Song's actions. If I really go out, I'm afraid he won't be able to say anything. Your cousins, it doesn't matter if you speak openly, that's all. Yang Kai finished speaking, not waiting for Qiu Yimeng to continue, walking towards the back hall. Qiu Yimeng sighed, thinking that what Yang Kai said made sense. She ordered the cultivator next to her to deliver the materials in the courtyard to the pill room and artifact refining room before walking out, a helpless look on her face. Lu Liang had come to see her for what reason, and what he would say, Qiu Yimeng could roughly guess, but because she had guessed it, she felt helpless. When she arrived at the door, Qiu Yimeng saw Lu Liang standing there, and behind him was the Lu family young master whose face was now swollen like a pig's head, Lu Song. Last night, he had been taught a terrible lesson by Dong Qinghan. When he thought of the fat man's outrageous methods, Lu Song couldn't help shuddering, but in his heart, he was filled with hatred. This hatred was clearly displayed on his face at this moment. Seeing this, Qiu Yimeng secretly shook her head, thinking to herself that this young man really was a pile of mud. Lu Liang's expression was also extremely awkward. The inheritance war was a matter for the younger generation. Lu Liang, as the patriarch of the Lu family, shouldn't have personally come to visit Yang Kai, but his son's actions were too disappointing, so Lu Liang had no choice but to shamelessly make a trip here. However, when he arrived at the door, he was stopped by 2 cultivator guards. Coincidentally, these 2 cultivator guards were from the Dong family. As soon as they saw Lu Song, they immediately sneered and ridiculed him, making him feel ashamed. Although Lu Liang couldn't help smiling, he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't beat these 2, even if he had the strength to do so. If he really did, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to escape unscathed today. After all, there were many masters in Yang Kai's house. Uncle Lu. Qiu Yimeng showed a smile and greeted him warmly, alleviating Lu Liang's embarrassment. Young Lady Qiu personally greets this old man. This old man is truly ashamed. Lu Liang's posture was extremely low, his words humble, and while exchanging pleasantries, he turned around and glared at Lu Song. You still don't want to be polite? Lu Song was somewhat reluctant, but he still cupped his fists and said, Cousin. Qiu Yimeng smiled and nodded, not bothering to argue with him, simply saying, Come in and we'll talk. Hearing her say this, Lu Liang suddenly felt relieved. Qiu Yimeng welcoming him in obviously meant she still cared about the relationship between the 2 families and didn't intend to punish him. This meant that he had a chance to resolve this matter. After entering the side hall, Qiu Yimeng asked someone to serve them tea. Taking a sip, she asked, Uncle Lu, why have you come to War City? Lu Liang sighed deeply. First, young lady, I won't hide it from you. This old man has come here with a thick face. Compared to the future of the Lu family, this old man's face is nothing. If it weren't for this bastard doing such a despicable thing, how could this old man have come here? Saying so, he turned to Lu Song and shouted, Kneel. Lu Song was dumbfounded, a look of astonishment appearing on his swollen cheeks as he said incoherently, On what basis? Lu Liang angrily shouted, Because this old master is your father. Lu Liang stubbornly refused, I won't kneel. From childhood to now, I've never knelt before anyone. If you dare not kneel, I'll break your legs. If you're willing to, then go ahead and hit me. Lu Song wasn't worried at all. Since he was young, he had never been hit by Lu Liang. Lu Liang's attitude towards him was one of spoiling. Chapter 491. It had to be said that Lu Liang was an expert in managing the family, but when it came to teaching his son, he was somewhat lacking. The father and son pair continued to quarrel until Qiu Yimeng frowned and said indifferently, Uncle, if you just want to educate your son, you can go back to the Lu family, you don't have to stay here. Hearing the impatience and indifference in Qiu Yimeng's tone, Lu Liang was shocked. Ignoring his son, he walked over to Lu Song, lifted him up, and pressed him to the ground. Lu Song quickly restrained him. Lu Song's face flushed red as he knelt on the ground, feeling like his face had been swept away. Even his eyes were filled with hatred as he glared at Lu Liang. If you dare to be stubborn with this old master again, I'll cripple you right now. Lu Liang's expression was cold and calm. He wasn't joking. Seemingly aware of this, Lu Song didn't dare to say anything else. Eldest young lady must be joking. Lu Liang bowed slightly and cupped his fists. Qiu Yimeng suddenly felt a sense of loss. She naturally understood Lu Liang's intentions, but with such an unruly son, anyone would have a headache. This Lu Song, in terms of character, was even worse than Hu Xing. Even though Hu Xing was arrogant and domineering, at least he had good eyesight and knew to follow Yang Kai. Uncle, if you have something to say, just say it. Qiu Yimeng didn't want to look at Lu Song's face anymore, so she didn't even bother to exchange pleasantries. Lu Liang sighed and said, This time, this old master was going to the central capital to see your father, but on the way here, I learned some news that surprised me greatly. When this little bastard was driven out of the house by the 9th young lord, he didn't even send a letter to the Lu family telling this old master the truth. Instead, he deliberately concealed it. This old master always thought he was working under the 9th young lord, but now that I've come out, I know he is actually working under the fifth young lord. Uncle, Qiu Yimeng called out, implying that Lu Liang shouldn't talk about such trivial matters. Regardless of whether Lu Liang knew the truth or not, the most important thing right now was to find out what Lu Liang wanted to do. Lu Liang's expression became awkward, no longer continuing what he had just said, and simply smiled. Eldest young lady. This old man only wishes to ask, what is ninth young master's current attitude? His attitude? Qiu Yimeng hesitated for a moment before smiling bitterly. Uncle, you're making a big fuss over nothing. Lu Liang was somewhat puzzled. Yang Kai didn't take Lu Song seriously at all. He was beaten up like this only because of the Dong family. With Yang Kai's temperament, if Lu Song had really angered him, do you think he would have survived last night? He dares to kill me? The corners of Lu Song's mouth twitched as he questioned sternly. You can try and see if he dares to kill you. Qiu Yimeng's pretty face suddenly became cold. Lu Song felt a chill in his heart and immediately withdrew the arrogance on his face. Uncle, Qiu Yimeng turned to Lu Liang and said in a calm tone, Lu Song came to join us that day. I was also responsible for him being kicked out by Yang Kai because I felt that he was not suitable to stay in Yang Kai's mansion. You should know what your own son is like. He stayed in Yang Kai. Sooner or later, he would die an unnatural death. So I encouraged him to do something so Yang Kai could find an excuse to drive him away. Lu Liang smiled bitterly and nodded. First young lady's good intentions, this old man is grateful. The next day, I also talked to him and asked him to leave War City. However, he didn't listen and stayed. Joining Yang Kai is his freedom. Yang Kai doesn't even know about this news, and even if he did, he probably wouldn't care. He has no reason to blame you. If he doesn't want help, why can't he rely on others? Qiu Yimeng tried her best to convince Lu Liang. Now that he's like this, he can only blame himself, he can't blame anyone. Qiu Yimeng stared at Lu Liang. If you really want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for letting him participate in the inheritance war. It's this old man's fault for not teaching his son properly. Lu Liang said with a look of shame. He naturally knew what kind of character his son had, but the inheritance war was such a big event that he had wanted Lu Song to come out and experience the world so he could temper his character and inherit the Lu family's foundation. Before coming here, he had even warned Lu Song repeatedly. However, Lu Song had completely ignored his words. Yang Kai doesn't mean to blame you. Uncle can rest assured that even if Yang Kai really becomes the patriarch of the Yang family, your Lu family won't be implicated because of this incident. Hearing her say this, Lu Liang suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. This was what he was most afraid of. Looking at the current situation, Yang Kai was certain to become the next patriarch of the Yang family. If one day he decided to settle the grudges of the inheritance war, the Lu family would suffer an unexpected calamity. Many thanks for first young lady's guidance. Lu Liang thanked her profusely, his expression relaxing, pausing for a moment before asking, First young lady, this old man will ask again, does ninth young lord still need help? Qiu Yimeng looked up at him and chuckled, Uncle, what do you want to do? Lu Liang rubbed his hands and smiled. This old man just wants this little bastard to atone for his crimes. Rest assured, as long as ninth young lord says the word, my Lu family will do its best this time without asking for anything in return. I'm afraid there won't be such an opportunity. Qiu Yimeng slowly shook her head. First young lady, are you worried about that little bastard Lu Song? After suffering this loss, I think he should have learned his lesson. As long as, Uncle, when I was with Yang Kai in your Lu family, I said that if I were you, I would definitely choose Yang Kai as an ally. Lu Liang's expression was bitter. Qiu Yimeng had indeed said such a thing that day, but he hadn't taken it to heart and had instead firmly believed in his own judgment. From the beginning, he had cared a little about Yang Kai, but later he had been irreverent towards him. The change in attitude was particularly obvious. But you... Qiu Yimeng sneered. 3 million silvers, uncle, you're really generous. Lu Liang's old face went red, wishing he could find a hole to crawl into. 3 million silvers was indeed a lot, But for the Lu family and the Yang family young lords who were participating in the inheritance war, it was nothing more than a drop in the bucket. When Yang Kai left the Lu family, Lu Liang had only given him 3 million silvers, and this was only because he had a relationship with Xiao Fu Sheng from Medicine King's Valley. Who knew that he would now be like the sun in the sky, bursting with popularity? If he had known earlier, Lu Liang would have firmly tied the Lu family to Kai Yang. If he wanted people, he would give them money. If he wanted supplies, he would give them supplies. How could he complain? How could he be irreverent towards him? Lu Liang's intestines turned green with regret. It's too late, uncle. Sending charcoal in snowy weather is not the same as adding flowers to a brocade. Xiao Yimeng finished and stood up. I have many things to attend to in the house, so I won't see uncle out. She then left. Lu Liang stood there in a daze, the expression on his face fluctuating, his heart filled with a complex mix of feelings and unspeakable depression. The Lu family was developed by him single-handedly. It was originally just a second-class force, but after hugging the big tree of the Chiu family, under the care of the Chiu family, it was gradually promoted to a first-class force. Over the years, Lu Liang had always wanted to further strengthen the Lu family, and the inheritance war was the best opportunity to do so. As long as he stood in the right position, the Lu family could definitely rise again. Unfortunately, there was originally a very good opportunity, but Lu Liang let it slip through his fingers. Even when Lu Song brought people and supplies to join the Yang family, there was still room to salvage the situation. If he had not sent Lu Song and instead sent another young disciple to preside over this matter, perhaps right now he would have been able to laugh along with the cultivator in Yang Kai's house. Bastard! Lu Liang swung his hand and gave Lu Song a big slap in the face, directly sending him flying. His eyes were filled with resentment and disappointment. Father, why did you hit me? Lu Song covered his swollen cheek and stared at Lu Liang in disbelief. Lu Liang took a deep breath and quickly said, "The position of the family's successor, you should step down. Your little brother Yuan is more suitable than you." After this incident, Lu Liang finally realized that if the family was really handed over to Lu Song, it would only take a few years for the family to completely decline. Little brother Yuan is second uncle's son. Lu Song was stunned. My decision is final. Go home. Lu Liang didn't even look at his son, crossing his arms behind his back and striding out. Behind him, Lu Song seemed to have lost his soul. It was as if he had never thought that because of the inheritance war, his position as the family's successor would be taken away. Inside his little senior sister's room, Yang Kai had already regarded it as his own and would stay here for a few days if he had nothing to do. After receiving a batch of newly refined pills from Xia Ningchang, Yang Kai immediately devoted himself to his cultivation. Tu Feng and Yan Ling Xing's qi binding seals would take at least a few days to lift. Although Ing Jiu, Chu Gao Yi and Tang Yuxian had all taken pills to refine the myriad drug milk, it would still take a few days for them to fully recover. Yang Kai was now only one step away from the immortal ascension boundary, so how could he slack off? While cultivating, Yang Kai also began refining artifacts. The huge role played by the bone shield made Yang Kai clearly realize the tyrannical power of mysterious grade artifacts. The mysterious grade mid-rank mirror was naturally included in the list of artifacts he urgently needed to refine. With the nourishment of the mysterious grade pills refined by his little senior sister, the yuan qi consumed in refining artifacts was quickly replenished. Not only that, but his spiritual energy was also constantly probing the mysteries of the true alchemic way. Yang Kai's cultivation could almost be said to be multitasking, but in terms of efficiency and results, it was no slower than usual. Perceiving the complex and mysterious alchemic way of the true alchemic way, Yang Kai's expression constantly changed as he silently comprehended it. The alchemic way of the true alchemic way was very different from the experience and techniques of ordinary alchemists, and the mysteries it contained were difficult to measure with common sense. Connecting all the knowledge he had obtained from the true alchemic way in the past, Yang Kai now had a deeper understanding of alchemy. Imperceptibly, Yang Kai's precious experience had already far surpassed the standards of this world. The only thing he lacked was his own personal practice. However, he knew that there would be an opportunity. He was still young and had a long future ahead of him, so he could always try something different. Even prying into the mysteries of the martial Dao through alchemy was not impossible. Xiao Fusheng had also said that alchemy could not help one reach the peak of the martial Dao. Chapter 492. Time flew by and Yang Kai immersed himself in cultivation, unable to extricate himself from it for a long time. Until there was a knock on the door. Yang Kai's brow furrowed, but after a moment of hesitation, he waved his hand and opened the door, revealing Qiu Yimeng. "What's the matter?" Yang Kai looked at her and asked. The Qiu family's first young lady walked in and whispered, "The Yang family has sent an elder's order, ordering ninth son, Yang Kai, to return to the central capital quickly." Finished speaking, she stared straight at Yang Kai, a complex look flashing across her beautiful eyes. She didn't know why the elder hall had summoned Yang Kai back. Yang Kai's expression froze for a moment before he tilted his head and asked, "Only me back to the central capital? What about eldest brother, second brother, and seventh brother? It seems you're the only one." Qiu Yimeng pursed her lips. "I see." Yang Kai slowly got up, his brow furrowed. This time, the family's order was quite interesting. Why was he the only one summoned back to the central capital? The last time the Yang family had sent someone to the central capital was only a few days ago to convey the news of the artifact snatching battle at Pajing Lake to the various young lords, but this time? "Yang Kai, I don't know why, but I feel a little uneasy." Qiu Yimeng's voice was a little gloomy, her two jade hands constantly twisting together, showing the tension and restlessness in her heart. For the Yang family to summon Yang Kai back to the central capital for no reason, something big must have happened. As for what it was, she didn't know for the time being. On top of that, the road back and forth would be extremely convenient for others to take action. Since it's an order from the family, there's no need to worry about my safety on the way back. Yang Kai shook his head. If he were to be ambushed on the way back to the central capital and was defeated, it wouldn't be justified in front of the family. In any case, be careful. Qiu Yimeng said, "I've already asked Ingjiu and Yuxian to prepare. The two of them will go with you." Yang Kai nodded lightly. Since the family had issued an order to return to the central capital as soon as possible, Yang Kai couldn't afford to delay. He immediately walked out. Outside the front door, Ingjiu and Tang Yuxian, who had recovered from their injuries, were waiting, the reticent Ingjiu as always. He didn't even want to say a word, but Tang Yuxian's mature and charming face was filled with a happy smile. "Little young master," she said softly. Returning to Yang Kai's service, whether it was Tang Yuxian or Tu Feng, both of them were sincerely happy. For the past half a year, although the two of them had been working under Yang Kai and performing their duties diligently, they had never stopped thinking about the day when they could join hands with Yang Kai again and create a miracle. "Is your injury almost healed?" Yang Kai asked Yan. "Thank you for your concern, little lord. I've already recovered." Tang Yuxian grit her teeth, her beautiful eyes filled with gratitude. Using his mad tyrant blood skill, he engaged in a fierce battle with Ingjiu. Logically speaking, it was impossible for her to recover so quickly, but under the miraculous effect of the pills given by Yang Kai, it only took her and Ingjiu 1 or 2 hours to fully recover. Even though he had personally experienced such a miraculous phenomenon before. Tang Yuxian still couldn't believe it. "When there's time, I'll have to ask you to teach me how to use my soul skills." Yang Kai chuckled as he mounted his cloud-treading colt. "Subordinate is always waiting," Tang Yuxian responded in a deep voice. Among the many blood warriors, Tang Yuxian was the leader in terms of soul skills and divine sense cultivation. Each blood warrior had their own specialties. Chu Gao excelled in quick bursts of strength, Ingjiu was good at concealment and assassination, Tu Feng was good at frontal combat, and Tang Yuxian's attainments in soul skills were second to none in the Blood Warrior Hall. "Go quickly and return quickly, be careful on the way." Qiu Yimeng watched the three of them mount their mounts and whispered. Yang Kai nodded lightly and the 3 cloud-treading colts set off towards the central capital. Outside the mansion, a gentle breeze blew, gently brushing Qiu Yimeng's hair. Under the setting sun, the Chiu family's first young lady's shadow stretched out, the uneasiness in her heart growing stronger and stronger. Pass down my order, everyone suspend their cultivation and divide into 2 groups, take turns to guard the area. If there is an enemy attack, kill without mercy, until Yang Kai returns. As night fell, the huge central capital was like a sleeping dragon, sprawling across the vast earth, the stars in the sky like the sands of the Milky Way. The 3 cloud-treading colts rushed into the Yang family's south gate like lightning. The several guards at the gate didn't even have time to ask what was going on. Only after the 3 people had left did they wake up from their daze and chase after them. 9th young lord, return to the family, withdraw. Tang Yuxian turned around and shouted, the several guards immediately stopping, their faces filled with fear. 9th young lord, Yang Kai. This person's name was like thunder to their ears, so how could they dare offend him, immediately retreating back to the gate and continuing to guard the night. In the 4th master's mansion, 4th Master Yang and Dong Suju, who were cultivating, were simultaneously awakened by the noise made by the cloud-treading colts and hurried out to see Yang Kai, followed by In Jiu and Tang Yuxian. Kai? Yang Yingfeng was startled, but Dong Suju's eyes were filled with tears as she rushed over and hugged Yang Kai tightly, kissing Yang Kai's forehead while inspecting him for any signs of injury. Since the start of the inheritance war, the mother and son had not seen each other again. The family had not allowed Dong Suju to visit Yang Kai in War City. Mother! Yang Kai couldn't wait to find a hole to crawl into. Yu Xian and Ing Jiu were still behind him. If they saw him like this, what kind of prestige would he have in front of them? As he spoke, he glanced back and found that whether it was Yu Xian or Ing Jiu, both of them wore solemn expressions, their eyes drooping as they stared at their own feet. After a while, Dong Suju vented the longing in her heart and pulled on Yang Kai's hand, her beautiful eyes filled with tears as a look of grievance appeared on her face. Kai, how come you're back? 4th Master Yang asked in surprise. The Elder Hall sent an order. Yang Kai replied, his brow wrinkling slightly. It seemed that the 4th Master didn't know anything about this matter. The Elder Hall. 4th Master Yang really didn't know anything. Although he was a direct descendant of the Yang family, his status in the Yang family wasn't very high, so there was really no need to inform him about the Elder Hall. Come in first. Yang Yingfeng took a deep breath. Mother will cook something delicious for you. Dong Suju said, beckoning to Tang Yuxian, Yuxian, come help me. Inside the house, the lights were bright. The family of 3 gathered around the table, Ing Jiu and Tang Yuxian standing behind Yang Kai with solemn expressions. No matter how Dong Suju warmly invited them, they refused to sit. Why did the Elder Hall summon you back to the central capital? Did they say what the matter was? 4th Master Yang asked. Suddenly learning that his son had returned to the central capital on an order from the Elder Hall, the 4th Master Yang couldn't help thinking about a lot of things, and he couldn't help feeling a little worried. They didn't say what it was. Yang Kai was also confused, but the Elder Hall's order was to return quickly, so Yang Kai could only rush back. It was already late at night, so he could only wait until tomorrow morning to go to the Elder Hall to see what was going on. Don't you have any idea what you're up to? Did you do something to attract the attention of the Elder Hall? 4th Master Yang asked. Father, you want to ask about that demon, right? Yang Kai smiled and shook his head. It's not because of him that the Elder Hall summoned me back. I have reached a consensus with Supreme Elder Yang Li Ting about his existence. Supreme Elder has allowed him to participate in the inheritance war, but after it is over, he must leave the battlefield immediately. Supreme Elder also summoned you? 4th Master Yang couldn't help feeling surprised. Yang Li Ting was a legendary figure in the Yang family. Even the 4th Master Yang had never seen him before. Unexpectedly, his son was actually lucky enough to be summoned by him. In the eyes of 4th Master Yang, this was a great honor. On the other hand, when Yang Kai mentioned Yang Li Ting, his expression became somewhat awkward, making Yang Kai wonder what had happened between him and Supreme Elder. Kai, no matter what, we're still part of the Yang family. It's best to avoid making friends with evil demons as much as possible, lest we become the subject of gossip. Yang Yingfeng said earnestly. Yang Kai nodded gently. He naturally understood what his fourth master meant. Over the years, the Yang family had played a leading role in the confrontation with the ash-gray cloud Evil Land's demon race cultivators. Now that Yang Kai had become friends with a demon race cultivator, it was natural for him to attract criticism. On top of that, this powerful demon race cultivator was actually participating in the inheritance war. If Yang Kai really won the position of Yang family successor with the help of this demon, it was easy for people to associate this matter with him. If it's not about that demon, Fourth Master Yang tapped his finger on the table, then it may be about Yingjiu lifting the Qi binding seal. As he spoke, he glanced over at Yingjiu. The fourth master's expression also filled with doubt. 6 blood warriors had been hit by the Qi binding seal, 5 of them were imprisoned and unable to use their Yuan Qi, but Yingjiu was safe and sound. This was the work of another Yang family supreme elder, Huang Jiuzhou. If Yang Kai was recalled to the central capital because of this, it was possible that the family would want to ask him about it. Speculating now is useless, we'll see tomorrow. Yang Kai shook his head, too lazy to think about it. Then let's have a good rest tonight. Being summoned by the Elder Hall, it's definitely not a good thing. Yang Yingfeng sighed. He had also been summoned by the Elder Hall several times, and each time he had either been scolded or punished by the family law, so he still had a faint impression of that place. Putting aside business, the atmosphere suddenly became harmonious. The family of 3 chatted and laughed, this warm and peaceful atmosphere also affecting Yingjiu and Tang Yuxian. It seemed that they had temporarily escaped from the tense and bloody inheritance war and were able to enjoy a short period of peace. The night passed without a word. The next day, Yang Kai bid farewell to his 2 parents and led Tang Yuxian and Yingjiu to the Elder Hall under the reluctant gaze of Dong Suzhu. 9th brother. Just as they were about to reach the Elder Hall, someone called out. Yang Kai turned his head and saw Yang Tai standing there with his hands behind his back, seemingly waiting for him. Last night, Yang Kai had broken into the south gate and returned to the family. The news had probably already spread, so it wasn't surprising that Yang Tai would know. 3rd brother. Yang Kai stepped forward and greeted, 3rd brother, what's the matter? Chapter 493. It's them who helped me. I must thank 3rd brother for sending me these 5 masters. Yang Kai smiled lightly. On the first night of the inheritance war, Yang Kai had captured Yang Tai, but instead of using him to exchange for supplies with the family, he had let him go. Yang Tai had returned the favor by sending 5 masters from the Duan Mu family to accompany him, which had surprised Yang Kai. However, these days, after several battles, the 5 masters from the Duan Mu family had indeed contributed a lot. After all, they were 5 Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters, one of whom had even reached the Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage. Yang Tai nodded lightly, his expression suddenly becoming dignified as he said in a low voice, when you go to the Elder Hall, you must not shrink back, otherwise, you will suffer. Yang Kai was stunned and was about to ask more questions, but Yang Tai had already left, not even giving him a chance to speak. Does 3rd brother know something? Yang Kai wondered. Although Yang Tai's personal strength wasn't very good, and his performance in the inheritance war was even worse, his father still had some authority in the Yang family. Compared with the 4th Master Yang, Yang Tai's father's status was undoubtedly much higher and he had access to some of the Yang family's secrets. Could it be that 3rd brother heard something from his father? Yang Kai frowned slightly, carefully pondering over his 3rd brother's words, his expression indifferent. Since he was already here, why the Elder Hall had called him back would soon become clear. With a smile, Yang Kai walked towards the Elder Hall. This was the 3rd time Yang Kai had come to the Elder Hall. The first time was because of the Golden Feather Eagle and the second time was because of the Blood Warriors. Every time he came, Yang Kai found that the white-haired elders of the Yang family seemed to have nothing to do. But this time, the situation was a bit different. When he led Yingjiu and Tang Yuxian into the Elder Hall, Yang Kai was stunned to find that there were more than a dozen elders sitting inside. They were divided into 2 rows, each of them indifferent and dignified. Sitting at the head of the table was Yang Zhen, who had dealt with Yang Kai several times. Even more so, they seemed to be waiting for him. Judging from the situation, it seemed like they were about to be interrogated. Yang Kai didn't think he had done anything outrageous during the Inheritance War, so why did these elders present such a luxurious lineup? Although he was suspicious in his heart, he remained calm on the surface. He cupped his fists and said, "Yang Kai greets the elders." Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian also saluted. "The two of you, stand down." Yang Zhen waved to Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian, his pair of eyes flashing brightly as they swept over Ying Jiao. He was like this, and so were the other elders. Everyone's faces and eyes were filled with bewilderment. Ying Jiao's foundation had been damaged, and Ying Jiao had been hit by the Qi binding seal. At this moment, not only had she returned to the clan with Yang Kai, but she had also returned to the clan. There was also a feeling that he was even more powerful than before. Those elders were naturally concerned. They didn't know why it was like this. Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian glanced at each other, not daring to disobey Yang Zhen's orders, quickly bowing and retreating. Yang Kai's brow furrowed slightly, his expression becoming playful. These elders not only greeted his arrival with a luxurious lineup, they had also waved away the 2 blood warriors he had brought with him, allowing him to face the pressure of more than a dozen of these elders alone. If it were anyone else, they would definitely feel uneasy and their imposing manner would immediately weaken. Whatever these elders said later would be the truth. Most likely, they wouldn't have the guts to argue. A show of strength? What were they trying to do? After Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian left, the dozen or so elders secretly observed Yang Kai's reaction. Finding that his expression hadn't changed and was still as calm as before, they couldn't help feeling a little surprised. It was the first time they had seen such a bold young man, even if it was Yang Wei. None of them had such willpower. I wonder why the elders have summoned this disciple back to the clan? Yang Kai ignored their probing gazes and went straight to the point, asking Yang Zhen bluntly. "Summoning you back to the clan is naturally for a reason." Yang Zhen sat in the elder hall all year round, dealing with all the big and small affairs of the family, so he had long since developed a cold demeanor. Most people who saw him couldn't help feeling frightened. "This old master wants to ask you, what method did you use to restore Ying Jiao's injuries and lift his Qi binding seal? In addition, as far as this old master knows, the blood warriors in your house are often injured, but after a day or 2 at most, they are all healed. What kind of mysteries are hidden in this?" Yang Kai's brow wrinkled. The elders didn't summon this disciple back at such a critical time just to ask about such a trivial matter, right? Although his tone was flat, everyone could hear the questioning in his words. This period was extremely critical for any Yang family young lord who was participating in the Inheritance War. If they summon Yang Kai back just for such a trivial matter, it would be making a big fuss out of nothing. These old fogies in the elder hall might look old, but they weren't bored to such an extent. Yang Zhen lightly coughed and said with a serious expression, "Naturally not." "Then, is this question something the family wants to ask? Or, is it something the elders want to ask?" Yang Zhen was startled, seemingly not having expected Yang Kai to be so calm and clear in the face of more than a dozen elders, so he shamelessly said, "This old master is asking on behalf of all the elders here. Everyone is curious as to how you did it." "Since it's not the family's intention." Yang Kai smiled and shook his head. "Please forgive this disciple for not being able to answer." The dozen or so elders suddenly shook their heads slowly, their faces filled with disappointment. Yang Zhen's expression was even uglier. None of them had expected that Yang Kai would actually dare to refuse to answer this question, and the excuse he found was quite clever. If it wasn't the family's intention, then there was no need for him to answer. These old fogies couldn't take advantage of their seniority to force him to answer, right? "Elder, this disciple has many matters to attend to. If you have something to say, please speak." Yang Kai's tone gradually became impatient. From the moment he entered the elder hall until now, from the performance of these elders, Yang Kai had seen a lot of problems. If they wanted to take the initiative and use their momentum to oppress him, they would definitely say something that would endanger his interests. If not, why would they need to make such a big show of force? Since it was something that would endanger his interests, Coupled with his third brother Yang Tai's words just now, Yang Kai naturally didn't need to be polite. If that's the case, this old master won't beat around the bush with you. Yang Zhen nodded, his eyes shining brightly as he stared at Yang Kai, quickly saying, "It's about the blood warriors under your command. The family has made a decision." "My blood warriors?" Yang Kai's brow wrinkled, faintly feeling that something was wrong, not showing any weakness as he stared back at Yang Zhen. Being stared at like this, Yang Zhen couldn't help but have the urge to evade, but in the end he managed to hold back and calmly nodded. As far as this old master knows, you now have 7 blood warriors under your command, correct? Yang Kai took a deep breath. Ying Jiao and Chu Gao Yi were the first to follow Yang Kai. Xiao Shun had joined after his 8th brother Yang Quan was eliminated. Tu Feng, Tang Yuxian, Luo Hai, and Yan Lingxing had joined Yang Kai after Yang Kong and Yang Shen were eliminated. In total, Yang Kai now had 7 blood warriors under his command, each of them an immortal ascension boundary 8th stage cultivator. If you don't have the means to lift the Qi binding seal, and if you don't have the means to quickly restore the blood warriors who have been seriously injured, then it's fine. With these 7 people gathered around you, I'm afraid they won't be able to exert much destructive power, but you have what ordinary people can't. Yang Zhen stood up from his seat and walked a few steps forward with his hands behind his back before turning to look at Yang Kai. If this old master's guess is correct, the 7 blood warriors under your command have all been restored to their peak, yes? Inferring from Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian following him here, this result was obvious. Yes. Yang Kai nodded gently. This old master also knows what you need to do next. You need to lead these 7 people and defeat the remaining Yang family young lords one by one in an unstoppable manner. In the process of defeating them, you can also subdue the blood warriors who are now following them. Did this old master say something wrong? Elder is correct. If I hadn't been summoned back to the family, I would have acted tonight. Yang Kai admitted frankly. Yang Zhen let out a soft breath. 7 blood warriors, and no one can stop you. You've created a miracle, even us old fogies are shocked. Yang Wei, Yang Zhao, and Yang Ying, although they have gathered a lot of forces around them, one of their blood warriors has already been crippled. You only need to lead these 7 people to attack and you'll be able to easily capture them and win the final victory without shedding a drop of blood. When he said this, he seemed to have already seen the scene of Yang Wei, Yang Zhao, and the others being powerless to resist. Moreover, this was exactly what Yang Kai wanted to do. But Yang Zhen suddenly changed the subject and said solemnly, "This is inconsistent with the original intention of the inheritance war, and it is inconsistent with the original intention of the Yang family to send blood warriors to participate in it." Yang Kai sneered meaningfully. At this point, if he still didn't understand why the Elder Hall had summoned him back, he would be a real fool. Anger filling his chest, Yang Kai took a deep breath and stared at Yang Zhen sarcastically. "Does Elder want to recall the blood warriors around me back to the family?" Although he had noticed the change in Yang Kai's attitude and tone, Yang Zhen didn't care. Young people were all hot-blooded. If Yang Kai didn't become angry at this time, he wouldn't be a young man. "Yes, it's good that you understand." Yang Zhen nodded calmly. "I don't understand." Yang Kai's expression became gloomy, not caring that the other party was an elder of the Yang family and his own elder, his attitude extremely tough. Yang Zhen continued, "As this old master just said, you leading 7 blood warriors to attack the other Yang family young lords is inconsistent with the original intention of the inheritance war. What the inheritance war is about, you should be clear. It's about the connections the young lords have made outside and their personal charisma. The more connections you have, the greater your personal charisma, the more support you can gather. Because what you want to seize is the right to succeed the Yang family's next patriarch. In the future, you will become the Yang family's patriarch. If you don't have the support of the majority of forces, how can you become the Yang family's patriarch? You only rely on the blood warriors from the Yang family to win. This proves nothing at all. Chapter 494. Elder, the fact that the blood warriors chose to side with me, isn't that enough proof of my methods and charisma? Yang Kai looked at him coldly. Ah. Yang Zhen paused for a moment before quickly replying. This only means that your vision is longer than everyone else's. He was naturally referring to Yang Kai taking the risk of using Chu Gao Yi and Ingjiu to win the respect of the entire Blood Warrior Hall. At first, he was also shocked by Yang Kai's boldness, but now it seemed that this little brat clearly had the means to cure Chu Gao Yi and Ingjiu. However, only he had the ability to do so. None of the other Yang family young lords had such ability. Isn't this my method? Yang Kai's face became gloomy. Yang Zhen hesitated for a moment before nodding. Another point is that the Blood Warriors will participate in the inheritance war. The family's original intention is to protect your safety and the survival of the flag in the early stages. This has never changed since ancient times. If you really lead a large number of Blood Warriors to attack the remaining Blood Warriors, it would naturally be contrary to the family's original intention of sending the Blood Warriors into the inheritance war. That's the family's miscalculation. What does it have to do with me? Yang Kai sneered. His face was filled with dissatisfaction. It had not been easy for him to gather enough strength to surpass his other brothers and was preparing to defeat the remaining enemies with a thunderous momentum to seize the final victory, but at this critical moment, he had been summoned back by the Elder Hall and told of such harsh requirements. How could Yang Kai accept this? It really is the family's miscalculation. No one thought that there would be a Yang family young lord who could gather so many Blood Warriors. Yang Zhen sighed. Over the years, in the countless inheritance wars, the Yang family Blood Warrior Hall has participated from time to time, but after so many years, no one has been able to achieve such a feat. No one has ever been able to reach your level. You've earned everyone's admiration, and even this old man admires you. Elder, there's no need for such flattery. This disciple can't afford it. Yang Kai coldly snorted. Yang Zhen's face filled with anger, but he quickly suppressed it. The other elders present also felt a little relieved, happy to see Yang Zhen suffer, especially in front of a junior. I've already told you the reason. Most of the Blood Warriors around you must be recalled to the family. Yang Zhen reiterated. This is clearly the family's way of suppressing me. Yang Kai shouted, arguing, no matter how many Blood Warriors I gather, they were all obtained through my own methods. Why should they be recalled by the family? How I use these Blood Warriors is also my freedom. If the family really does so, I'm afraid I'll be ridiculed. Elders, please have some respect for me. The inheritance war has been going on for so many years. It's not some child's play. The rules are not something you can just change. Yang to Yang Zhen's Yang family's Yang Yang? Yang to Yang Zhen to the family with him, of the families of the family, are you, of the elders at Hall? Elders, elder? Yang of Yu Yang's Yang of this tea, of him, of course, of the family, of Yang Zhen hesitated a few times, but eventually didn't say anything. Seeing the tense atmosphere, one of the elders suddenly stood up and said, Yang Kai, don't be angry, this time it is indeed the family's fault. After all, we didn't expect you to be able to gather all the Blood Warriors. But what Yang Zhen said is also reasonable. If you think about it carefully, winning the inheritance war by relying on the Blood Warriors isn't something to be proud of. However, I think that after this incident, in the next inheritance war, the family will carefully consider the issue of the Blood Warriors. I only value the result, the process, it doesn't matter. Yang Kai slowly shook his head. Whether it is glorious or not, that is your Elder Hall's business. The next inheritance war has nothing to do with me. I didn't rely on despicable means to gather the Blood Warriors, nor did I threaten them. They did so willingly. In short, if the family wants to recall the Blood Warriors around me, it's impossible. After a pause, Yang Kai continued, if the family really does so, then this inheritance war, I won't participate in it. You dare threaten this old master? Yang Zhen narrowed his eyes, his aura gradually becoming dangerous. If Elder thinks so, then that's fine. It's just that the rules are constantly changing. It's no different from a child's game. I'm too lazy to participate. Yang Kai sneered, cupping his fists and saying, farewell. How dare you? Yang Zhen roared in anger. Yang Kai's expression remained unchanged, but after taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped, because a tall and straight figure with his hands crossed behind his back was approaching him. This man's expression was indifferent, but Yang Kai felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him, his aura suddenly becoming chaotic. In just an instant, that kind of exaggerated pressure disappeared. Yang Kai took a deep breath and cupped his fists. "Greetings, great uncle." The person who had just arrived was actually the current Yang family patriarch, Yang Yinghao. Yang Yinghao nodded gently and walked over to him. "Don't be in such a hurry, let me talk to you." "Greetings, patriarch." All the elders in the elder hall stood up and bowed. Although they were 1 or 2 generations older than Yang Yinghao, in the Yang family, the patriarch represented supreme dignity. Even Yang Zhen and the others had to salute. "Sit down," Yang Yinghao said softly, walking to the seat that originally belonged to Yang Zhen and sitting down. Looking at the shattered table in front of him, he frowned and said, "Elder Zhen, you need to change your temper." Yang Zhen rolled his eyes and said, "It's been so many years, I'm afraid I can't change it." An elder laughed and said, "Wolves eat meat, dogs eat shit, that's the truth." Everyone laughed, and the atmosphere suddenly eased a little. Yang Yinghao had come here personally, clearly having guessed that there would be some unpleasantness here, so he specifically came to talk to Yang Kai. He had to give face to the patriarch. Even if Yang Kai was unhappy, he could only stay for the time being. "Looking at you, Yang Kai should already know, right?" Yang Yinghao asked. "Yes." Yang Zhen stood beside him with his head lowered and nodded. Looking up at Yang Kai, Yang Yinghao said, "This time it was the family's fault. Great uncle will apologize on behalf of the family." "I wouldn't dare." Yang Kai's expression was slightly relaxed, and his mood gradually calmed down. The family's decision to recall most of the blood warriors around him was still unacceptable to him. Facing the strength of the family and the elder hall, he couldn't help feeling a deep sense of powerlessness. No matter what, he was still a Yang family member, and his parents were both in the Yang family. What's more, he had participated in the inheritance war because he still had an unfulfilled wish. "You're uncomfortable, I know, but this is the family's decision and cannot be changed, and in the future inheritance war, the blood warriors gathered around each young lord will also be the same. There will never be more than 2. When Yang Kai heard this, his mouth twitched and he sneered. "That is to say, even if I defeat Big Brother and Second Brother in the future, I won't be able to subdue the blood warriors around them." Yang Yinghao nodded. "The blood warriors are too powerful, especially those who use their mad tyrant blood skill. You should have already experienced this. Isn't this a rule change specifically aimed at me?" Yang Kai smiled. "I don't know whether to be proud or not. In short, my mood right now is very delicate and complicated. It's not specifically aimed at you. Before, the elders in the family were also worried that you would gather all the blood warriors around you. However, everyone generally believed that such a thing was unlikely to happen, so no one paid any attention to it. But now that you've done it, we have no choice but to inconvenience you." Pausing for a moment, he continued, "What's more, the people from Medicine King's Valley and Treasure Instrument sect gathered in your house have already given you a great advantage. These 2 forces shouldn't be involved in the inheritance war. You should have heard that when those people from Medicine King's Valley moved into your house, the Yang family's young lords jointly protested, but the family didn't pay any attention because that was your personal connection, so the family couldn't interfere. However, the blood warriors are different. The blood warriors belong to the Yang family, not your personal connection." Yang Kai's face was cold and he didn't say a word, but Yang Yinghao's words had grasped the crux of the issue. "The family is fair. Since you've been asked to recall most of the blood warriors around you, naturally you will be compensated. If you have any request, as long as it can be met, the family will not refuse. We won't let you suffer a loss." Having reached this point, Yang Kai also knew that he was powerless to resist. He didn't have the qualifications or the ability to fight against the family. If he continued to speak arrogantly, he was afraid it would only be a thankless task. "I do have a request." Yang Kai hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Speak." Yang Yinghao motioned. "For my sect, High Heaven Pavilion." Yang Kai looked straight into Yang Yinghao's eyes. High Heaven Pavilion is not an evil sect, it's just that it has a demon lord. Hearing this, everyone's expression couldn't help changing slightly, a deep dread flashing across their eyes, even Yang Yinghao, who had reached the above immortal ascension boundary. Demon Lord. In the war with the ash-gray cloud evil land, Yang Yinghao had also met this person. Although they were both above immortal ascension boundary masters, this person gave him a sense of oppression. Facing this person, Yang Yinghao even had the urge to destroy his own sanity. He knew that this demon lord was one of the top above immortal ascension boundary masters. This request? Yang Yinghao couldn't help showing a trace of embarrassment. The matter of the demon lord was of great importance. As the patriarch of the Yang family, he and the ash-gray cloud evil land were like fire and water. Suddenly wanting to restore the name of the sect where the demon lord came from was really difficult. That's all I have, Yang Kai said seriously. He didn't participate in the inheritance war for the position of patriarch of the Yang family like everyone else. His biggest purpose was to use his own strength to restore High Heaven Pavilion's name, which was the common wish of him and the fourth Master Yang. As long as the sect was restored, Ling Tai Su and the other elders, as well as the wandering High Heaven Pavilion disciples, would be able to return to the place where they were born and raised. If Patriarch can agree to this request of mine, not to mention recalling my blood warrior, I would even be willing to withdraw from the inheritance war right now, Yang Kai said solemnly. Everyone present was shocked and stared at him in amazement. Chapter 495. Yang Kai's expression was calm and his eyes were extremely clear. Obviously, he wasn't playing any kind of trick. Yang Yinghao's expression suddenly changed as he asked curiously, "So, your biggest purpose in participating in the inheritance war is this?" Yang Kai nodded. Only the Yang family patriarch has the ability to restore High Heaven Pavilion's name. You don't want to be the Yang family patriarch, commanding the world, making clouds and rain with a flip of your hand? Yang Yinghao asked sharply. Yang Kai curled his lips, a trace of ridicule appearing on his face as he said lightly, "What's so good about being the Yang family patriarch? After sitting in that position, I can't even guarantee my own cultivation time. Great uncle, aren't you the best example? Although you're also an above immortal ascension boundary master, in my opinion, your strength should be relatively poor, right?" Impudence! Yang Zhen shouted angrily, his eyelids twitching. He had never seen anyone who dared to speak so boldly in front of Yang Yinghao. Yang Yinghao waved his hand, stopping Yang Zhen's reprimand, his mouth curling into a smile as he nodded. Among the above immortal ascension boundary masters, I am indeed not very good. I can only count as a floor mater. This is the tragedy of every Yang family patriarch. You being able to see through this is beyond my expectations. After pausing for a moment, he continued meaningfully, "But do you know why every Yang family patriarch is an above immortal ascension boundary master?" Listening to him say this, Yang Kai suddenly wondered. According to the ancient records, every patriarch of the Yang family was indeed an above immortal ascension boundary master, without exception. The above immortal ascension boundary was the pinnacle of this world. Very few people could reach this level, overlooking all living beings. It was impossible for every Yang family patriarch to have such talent and aptitude, right? Moreover, Yang Yinghao's age wasn't too old, at most around 50 years old. Reaching the above immortal ascension boundary at such a young age, just how terrifying was his aptitude? Such a terrifying aptitude. Why was he at the bottom of the above immortal ascension boundary masters? Because the Yang family has the heritage to allow the patriarch to reach the above immortal ascension boundary. Yang Yinghao stared straight at Yang Kai and said. Yang Kai's expression changed. Suddenly, he realized that he seemed to have inadvertently overheard a Yang family secret. "Do you understand what I mean?" Yang Yinghao asked. Kai Yang shook his head, although he had some speculations in his heart. But he wasn't certain. Yang Yinghao smiled. "Do you think being the patriarch of the Yang family is all about working hard for the family? Patriarch is patriarchus est? This father thesis est father. Yang, Kaises I, SSSS, Teat, S cultivations. He's this, S's. Yang's words. Let's not talk about him first. Let's talk about me first. If I were to cultivate by myself, the current me would probably be at the peak of the immortal traversing realm. I'm well aware of my own aptitude. Peak immortal ascension boundary is my limit. Even if I were given another 50 years, I wouldn't be able to reach the above immortal ascension boundary. Many cultivators are, and peak immortal ascension boundary masters are not uncommon. However, above immortal ascension boundary masters are extremely rare. But since I became the patriarch of the Yang family, I broke through to the above immortal ascension boundary 5 years ago. Yang Kai's expression changed slightly as he asked, so the patriarch's position is related to your current cultivation? You can say so. Yang Yinghao gently nodded. As for what's the secret behind it, it's not convenient for me to tell you. You only need to know this. Why is patriarch telling me this? Yang Kai was puzzled. Although listening to Yang Yinghao's words, he did have some interest in the patriarch's position, but that was it. Just chatting, you don't have to worry about it. Yang Yinghao smiled lightly. Yang Kai frowned, secretly shaking his head and asking, then what about my request? Yang Yinghao nodded. I do have the ability to restore High Heaven Pavilion's name. But if I agree to your request now, I'm afraid the world will misunderstand that I'm using this condition to force you to withdraw from the inheritance war, so I refuse. Yang Kai's expression sank. If you want to restore the sect's name, you must rely on your own ability. Or do you think that without a few blood warriors, you won't be able to win the inheritance war? Yang Kai's expression remained indifferent as he shook his head. Patriarch, this kind of provocation is useless against me. Then prove it with your own strength. Yang Yinghao smiled faintly. The blood warriors must be recalled, and your losses will be compensated by the family. State your request. The reason I came here today is to deal with this matter. Yang Kai took a deep breath, knowing that at this point, there was nothing he could do. The family had already decided that no matter how much trouble he made, he couldn't win. Frowning for a long time, Yang Kai suddenly raised his head and declared, I want all the blood warriors who follow me now, including those who follow me in the future, to belong to me. Yang Yinghao's body stiffened as he stared at Yang Kai in amazement. Yang Zhen and the other white-haired elders all had their mouths wide open, none of them having expected Yang Kai's appetite to be so big. This request is too unreasonable. Yang Zhen coldly snorted. The masters of the Blood Warrior Hall had always been loyal to the family, never to a single person. But now that Yang Kai had made such a request, if he agreed, it would mean that at least 7 blood warriors would be under his name. I only have this request, whether you agree or not is up to Patriarch to decide. Yang Kai reiterated, his expression serious. Even Yang Yinghao, as the patriarch of the Yang family, who was accustomed to great winds and waves, couldn't help feeling a headache. No one had ever made such a request to him before. It could be said to be extremely rude. But he had just refused another request from Yang Kai, and now he refused again. What's more, this was the family's proposal to compensate him for his losses. Smiling bitterly, Yang Kai asked, most of those blood warriors can't participate in the inheritance war. What do you want them to be loyal to you for? Naturally, I have a use for them. Yang Kai replied faintly. Yang Yinghao let out a sigh of relief, his expression somewhat helpless, hesitating for a moment before nodding. Good, I agree. Yang Kai couldn't help looking at him with some surprise, not having expected him to agree so quickly. Yang Zhen hurriedly tried to stop him. Patriarch, you can't. It's fine. Yang Yinghao waved his hand. Yang Kai is also a Yang family member. The blood warriors under his name are still part of the Yang family. Although that's the case, but good, that's enough. This time it was the family's fault. Yang Yinghao obviously didn't want to talk about this anymore, turning to Yang Kai and saying, I agree to your request. I hope you can make good use of these blood warriors in the future. It wasn't easy for the family to cultivate them. I know, many thanks, great uncle. But you need to determine which 2 blood warriors will participate in the inheritance war. Once you've confirmed, The other blood warriors must not contribute anything in the inheritance war. Are you sure now? Yang Kai frowned. Yang Kai suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Chu Gao-yi and Ying Jiao were the first to follow him, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were the first to meet him, and they were also the ones who had welcomed him back to the central capital. Xiao Shun, Luo Hai, Yanling Xing, and Yang Kai's friendship with them wasn't deep, so aside from them, there were still 4 blood warriors left. After hesitating for only a moment, Yang Kai's expression became firm. Then Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian will do. Decisive, that's the spirit of a Yang family member. Yang Yinghao praised, that's all for now, you should return to War City as soon as possible. Disciple will take his leave. Yang Kai bowed and calmly withdrew from the elder hall. Outside, Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian's foreheads were filled with sweat as they waited anxiously. The quarrel in the elder hall naturally did not escape their ears, and all of them secretly broke out in cold sweat for Yang Kai. When Yang Kai came out, the two of them nodded gratefully to him. Yang Kai choosing them as his helpers in the inheritance war naturally made them feel honored and proud. After coming out of the elder hall, Yang Kai didn't say anything, but anyone could see that his mood at the moment wasn't very good. After returning to the fourth master's house, Yang Kai left behind some myriad drug liquid for the fourth master and Dong Suju before flying back to War City with Ying Jiao and Yuxian. Along the way, Yang Kai's silence made both Ying Jiao and Yuxian anxious. Both of them wanted to ease the depression in Yang Kai's heart, but they didn't know how to comfort him. Just as they were feeling anxious, Yang Kai, who was riding his cloud-treading colt in front of them, suddenly burst into laughter. The two blood warriors glanced at each other suspiciously before quickly catching up. Glancing sideways, they saw Yang Kai's face filled with joy, all of his previous gloominess and unhappiness flying out of his eyes. "Little Lord." Tang Yuxian pursed her red lips, not knowing why his mood had changed so much. Yang Kai laughed even louder. Tang Yuxian suddenly realized, so Little Lord's expression just now was just for others to see. After taking such a big advantage, of course I need to find some psychological balance for those around me. If I had been too excited, I'm afraid those elders would have been suspicious. Yang Kai nodded lightly. This time, it could be said that he had profited greatly. Although the family's orders had a restraining effect on Yang Kai's progress in the inheritance war, in the long run, Yang Kai was undoubtedly the biggest winner. So many blood warriors were now under his name, and from now on they would be at his disposal. This was a precedent that had never been seen in the entire Yang family. Blessings and disasters came hand in hand, it was true. What's more, only 2 blood warriors could participate in the inheritance war, so how could they not win? Yang Kai was full of confidence in his future. All the way he felt refreshed. The 100-kilometer journey only took half an hour to complete. The roaring of the cloud-treading colt alarmed Qiu Yimeng, who had been waiting anxiously in the mansion. Young Lady Qiu hurried out to greet them, her pair of beautiful eyes carefully observing them, secretly wondering why the Yang family had summoned Yang Kai back to the central capital. After seeing Yang Kai's silent expression, her heart couldn't help trembling, secretly feeling that something was wrong. Chapter 496. From the look on Yang Kai's face, it was clear that he had encountered something bad in the Yang family. Qiu Yimeng thought to herself, but didn't dare to ask immediately, instead just silently leading him into the house. Inside the main hall, the leaders of many forces had gathered. They had all heard the news that Yang Kai had been recalled to the family and naturally wanted to know the reason. More than a dozen pairs of eyes stared straight at Yang Kai, waiting for him to speak. The hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. There's good news and bad news. Yang Kai took a deep breath and looked around. Which one do you want to hear? There's good news and bad news. Huastar smiled and shook his head. Then let's hear the bad news first. It can't be any worse than the news we heard this morning. Yang Kai's expression changed slightly. Although he didn't know what he was talking about, he didn't ask. If there was any good news in War City, Qiu Yimeng would definitely inform him. The bad news is that only 2 of the blood warriors in the mansion can participate in the inheritance war, the rest of them are not allowed to contribute. What? Everyone was shocked. Qiu Yimeng's brow furrowed as she asked, "What do you mean?" Yang Kai briefly explained the family's decision. After comprehending the profound meaning behind it, everyone became filled with righteous indignation, and their expressions turned ugly. But Stars shouted, "Isn't your Yang family taking this too lightly? How can you just change the rules of the inheritance war?" That's right, how could this be? With this, the gap in strength between the Yang family and the other houses has been shortened in an instant. Everyone began to criticize the Yang family elder hall, even a woman as cold as Han Shaoqi. A trace of anger also appeared on her face. Originally, the situation was good. With 7 blood warriors on Yang Kai's side, it was enough to sweep away all the enemies. But now, it was undoubtedly impossible. Yang Kai, why didn't you argue with the Yang family elder hall? These blood warriors all came to you of their own free will, yet you just let them be reduced for no reason? Stars said angrily. "Shut up." Qiu Yimeng took a deep breath and scolded. When she heard the news just now, she also felt a knot in her chest. Her heart was filled with anger, but when she calmed down, she realized that although Yang Kai had said so, he was still a man. However, there was not the slightest hint of displeasure on his face. She immediately knew that he actually didn't care about this result. "What's the other good news?" Qiu Yimeng looked at Yang Kai and asked, "Let's hear it." The crowd suddenly quieted down and looked at Yang Kai. The corners of Yang Kai's mouth slowly rose. With a light smile on his face, Yang Kai said, "The good news has nothing to do with you, nor does it have anything to do with the inheritance war, it only concerns me. All the blood warriors who have pledged allegiance to me now and in the future will be under my name and swear allegiance to me." Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Thinking about it carefully, they immediately realized the huge benefits contained within. What? Dong Qinghan's face filled with disbelief. "Did your Yang family really agree to this condition?" "Not bad. F***CK. Stars were also stunned. Qiu Yimeng smiled and slowly shook her head. "Yang Kai, you've really gained a lot. All the blood warriors who had pledged allegiance to him now and in the future would only be loyal to Yang Kai. In other words, regardless of whether he won the final victory in the inheritance war, Yang Kai's status in the Yang family in the future would not be low. With so many blood warriors as his followers, how could his status be low? At the very least, he would be an elder. A Yang family elder. That was a character whose status was comparable to the sect master of a first-class force. The family probably went too far this time, so they agreed to my condition." Yang Kai chuckled. "If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have been able to obtain such a big benefit." Qiu Yimeng gently nodded. "In the short term, this is indeed bad news for the inheritance war, but for your long-term development, it is quite beneficial. In any case, congratulations first." A burst of congratulatory voices sounded. Yang Kai smiled lightly, but when he looked around he suddenly found that everyone was hiding a trace of worry, so he couldn't help asking, "Did something happen last night?" He had only been gone for one night, yet everyone's expressions had changed so much, it was obvious something big had happened last night. Everyone couldn't help coughing lightly and sitting up straight. Qiu Yimeng smiled bitterly. "I can't hide anything from you, I was just about to tell you." He sighed and said, "Just like you, I have good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?" "The bad news." Yang Kai's expression suddenly became serious. "Yang is abstained." "What?" Yang Kai's face paled. "You didn't hear wrong, your 7th brother Yang Ying abstained last night." "What happened?" Yang Kai frowned. This was not something he could have expected. After the inheritance war, only 4 of the 8 great young lords remained. Yang Wei, Yang Zhao, Yang Kai, and Yang Ying. Among these 4, Yang Kai had the most masters gathered in his house. Just his 7 blood warriors were already superior to everyone else, not to mention the old demon and Meng Wuya. In addition, the one with the most supporters was Yang Ying. In this regard, the other 3 couldn't compare. After all, that night, after Yang Kai attacked Yang Shen's mansion and seized his flag, all of Yang Shen's subordinates, except for the 2 blood warriors, had gathered in Yang Ying's house. Yang Ying had the support of two young lords. No matter how one looked at it, Yang Ying wasn't the worst of the four. But he had actually taken the initiative to abstain. This was beyond everyone's expectations, and it happened last night when Yang Kai left War City. I don't know the specifics. Qiu Yimeng shook her head. Qiu Yimeng shook her head. She only found out this morning. It is said that your second brother went to Yang Ying's mansion alone and negotiated with him for half the night. I don't know what kind of benefits and conditions were promised, but Yang Ying took the initiative to abstain. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and quickly said, "So, seventh brother's subordinates? They're already in your second brother's house." Qiu Yimeng smiled bitterly and shook her head. After absorbing the people from Yang Ying's house, Yang Zhao's strength had now reached an incredible level. It was completely different from Yang Kai's current situation. He was the one with the strongest army. That night was really full of changes. Yang Kai's expression was gloomy as he sneered. He had only left for one night and such a big event had happened in War City. His second brother had really taken advantage of this opportunity. If he hadn't been summoned by the Elder Hall last night, Yang Kai would have already taken the 7 blood warriors to war. But now, Yang Kai had completely lost the advantage he had originally accumulated. On the contrary, he had to be careful of his second brother's actions. The situation had taken a sudden turn, and the gap between the two was too big to bear. He had been summoned by the Elder Hall yesterday evening, and now his second brother had made a big move. Whether this was a coincidence or not, Yang Kai didn't know. But now, the trend of the inheritance war had become complicated and confusing. At the very least, Yang Zhao had become a difficult bone to chew. His eldest brother was definitely not easy to deal with. Of the remaining 3 brothers, who would emerge victorious was a matter of great concern to the entire world. What's the good news? Yang Kai calmed down and asked. The good news isn't very good for you right now. Qiu Yimeng's face showed a touch of helplessness as she clapped her hands and said, "Come in." 2 people walked in from the door. Yang Kai only glanced at them and immediately understood what Qiu Yimeng meant. These 2 were the 2 blood warriors who had followed his 7th brother. Now that Yang Ying had taken the initiative to abstain, they had the opportunity to choose a new follower. Just like the other blood warriors, these 2 had also come to seek refuge with Yang Kai. However, since Yang Kai had agreed to the Elder Hall's request, these 2 couldn't contribute much in the inheritance war. Wu Ju, Fu Tsong, greet the little lord. Yang Kai nodded gently. Did you hear what I just said? We heard. The 2 nodded and smiled. Then we will ask the little lord to take care of us in the future. Likewise, subordinates will retire. The 2 came out to meet with Yang Kai. Immediately after, they retreated. What do you plan to do now? After the 2 blood warriors left, Qiu Yimeng asked softly. I'll observe the situation first. Yang Kai was also somewhat helpless. Although the forces he had gathered now weren't bad, with so many blood warriors at his disposal, he couldn't act as unscrupulously as he had expected. Not to mention, Yang Zhao also had a strong army now, so he had no choice but to be cautious. So much had changed in one night, the world was truly fickle. Although everyone felt some injustice for Yang Kai, when they thought about how he had so many blood warriors at once, they didn't think it was a big deal. After dispersing, everyone went back to cultivate. Yang Kai summoned all the blood warriors. Including the 2 who had just joined this morning, there were now 9 blood warriors gathered in his house. This number was quite amazing. The Elder Hall's decision was something the many masters of the Blood Warrior Hall had heard from Ying Jiao and Tang Yuxian. Looking at the masters in front of him, Yang Kai said, Of the 9 of you, I can only choose 2 to participate in the inheritance war. Ying Jiao has been responsible for my safety, concealment, and assassination, so none of you can compare, so I chose him. As for Yuxian, she is proficient in soul skills and is the only woman among you, so I also chose her. I hope none of you have any complaints. Subordinates wouldn't dare. Everyone shouted in unison. I know you won't. Yang Kai nodded. In fact, there is another reason I chose Yuxian. Everyone couldn't help feeling curious. Yang Kai smiled. I also want to be with a beautiful woman. Even Tang Yuxian, who had a calm temperament and rich experience, couldn't help blushing slightly. "Little Lord." The expressions of the group suddenly became ambiguous. Yang Kai's expression became serious and no longer spoke any nonsense. "Although the remaining 7 of you can't play a role in the inheritance war, in your spare time, you can teach the cultivator in the house how to cultivate. That's not a problem." Tu Feng nodded. They were all masters of the Yang family blood warrior hall, each of them an immortal ascension boundary 7th or 8th stage cultivator. Giving pointers to the people in the house was a piece of cake. Presumably, the cultivator in the house would also be ecstatic. Being able to receive pointers from the Yang family blood warriors was not an opportunity that ordinary people could obtain. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.